looking at nano satellites. And I say that because this election is about whether we can build an America that works for everybody. That's the whole deal. Can we restore middle-class incomes? Can we restore social mobility? Can we adapt our system to the demands of the 21st century and solve the terrible, profound problems that have left some places in this country totally behind and have aggravated inequality? It's a global phenomenon, but it's worse here. And the reason it's worse here, in my opinion, is that we have had too much gridlock in Washington and too much trickle-down economics from the other party. I believe, let me just say this. People can say whatever they want, and I know Hillary's opponent's coming here. I urge you to go hear him too. But because he's raised this issue of income inequality, and it's very important, I have spent a lifetime fighting it, and so has Hillary. And when I was president, it's the only time in the last 50 years when the incomes of the bottom 20% in percentage terms increased more than the top 20%. When 100 times as many people moved from poverty into the middle class as under President Reagan, and poverty increased under both the Bush administration. Trickle-down economics does not work. Since I've been out of office, I've tried to do it. We raised $16 billion from union pension funds that have already put over 60,000 people to work in infrastructure projects with wages that pay good, strong middle-class incomes with good benefits. So I'm glad we're debating this. It's a lot better than what they're debating in the other party. But look, the whole question is, what are you going to do about it? And I believe Hillary should be president for three reasons. One is, I think her ideas for how to reduce inequality, how to create jobs, and how to make the barriers to participating in the future, including affordable college, manageable debt, tearing down the barriers that other people face. We need equal pay, we need paid leave, we need affordable child care, so that women can join men in full participation in the workforce. We need immigration reform so people don't live in the shadows and they can pay taxes and be rewarded for the work they're given. They don't have to worry about their families being broken up and their kids being taken out of school. We need prison reform so that young people who are in jail for too long for nonviolent offenses can get out, get education, get a life. We need to recognize that this epidemic of prescription drug and heroin abuse is sweeping America, and it's a bipartisan killer. They're 94-1. The U.S. Senate voted last week, finally, to treat it like a public health problem, not a crime problem. Hillary was the first candidate in this race to offer a $10 billion program for mental health and treatment so that people can begin again. A couple of days ago, I was in West Virginia in one of the hardest hit counties there, and they have the highest death rate and addiction rate in the country. And I was with a judge in a drug court that rescues kids and keeps them from going to jail and gives them the treatment they need. I met a young man who was a two-sport letterman, an honor student, and all of a sudden he was an addict, out of his sports, out of his school, and he's coming back now. He's coming back because he had a community-based support system that has given him a chance to live again. We put drug courts all over America when I was president to try to keep people out of jail. We can do that again, and if you will vote for it, you will get that. But let's go back to talking about inequality. There are a few differences in this campaign, but they're important. Hillary won a big victory in New York, including the most progressive wards in New York City, because they know something that the rest of America is not being told. There are 50 to 60,000 fewer people working on Wall Street today than there were the day before the crash. They're growing manufacturing jobs in the Bronx. They're growing high-tech businesses in Manhattan now. The banks cannot do what they used to do. And one of them is already much smaller than it used to be. The others can be broken up under present law. The real problem today with inequality is being driven by corporations that are keeping 80 to 90% of their profits for the shareholders and the top management. That's not the way it should be. And Hillary has proposed some pretty interesting things to do something about it. Carrots and sticks. For companies that share their profits fairly with their employees, 15% tax credit. Other supports if they give their employees continued training so they can keep getting better jobs. And she believes that we have to have some sticks. This whole thing is being driven not by the employee pension funds, for example, that insure the people that work at the University of Kentucky. This is being driven by billionaires and hedge funds that are not regulated by the Dodd-Frank law that should be, and they should not be able to get a lower capital gains tax rate by holding that stock just for a year and a day. She thinks they should have to hold it longer because companies that work for their customers, their employees, their communities, and their stockholders make more money over any 5 to 8 year period. Why do we have the incentives to sell out in a year and a day? We got to change that. And if we change that, you will change the face of equality in America. Because we should reward people that share their profits fairly. Look at what happened to Carrier Air Conditioning in Indiana. Were they losing money? They threw 2,100 people under the bus. Why? Because they want to go to Mexico to save $65 million a year, 3 years from now. You know what they made last year? $2.9 billion. The union offered to save them the money. They said, we'll just reorganize and save that much money. And a man in the board meeting said, no, we want our money in a year and a day, and our president gets embarrassed if he doesn't get his bonus. So what are the lives of 2,100 people? Those people are making more money for that company. And they'll make more money if they get to keep their jobs than they're going to make having to train a new workforce in Mexico. Nobody cares because they're only thinking about a year and a day. If you vote for Hillary and we get enough votes in Congress, we'll make them hold those stocks longer to get a lower tax rate. And we'll get people incentives to reinvest in their workforce, and you will see inequality in America go down and wages go up. Now, you got to make this accessible to everybody. We have to finish the work of healthcare reform. And I know that people used to say, or there's been a lot of talk in this campaign about, well, you know, if the president had just tried harder, we could have gotten single payer. Since World War II, there has not been a single solitary change in healthcare that helped more than 1 million people that did not have to get 60 votes to break a Republican filibuster. We had 0 votes to spare for the bill that did pass. And we have over 90% of our people insured for the first time in history. So what happened? And Kentucky did the best job of implementing the law. So what happened? You elected this Republican governor, and he wrecked your health exchange. He cut funding for higher education. And he froze the Medicaid expansion, which is a good deal for the state. It's going to cost you, I don't know, $15 billion in budget revenues by not letting lower income working people have health insurance under Medicaid. So what Hillary wants to do is to give a public option, let people in the insurance market, if it doesn't work for them anymore, and that'll be a lot of people in Kentucky now, buying the Medicare if they're over 55, buying the Medicaid if they're under 55, and we'll get to 100% insured. Then we got to bargain down the price of prescription drugs like every other country does, and get more people in healthcare plans where you pay to stay healthy instead of paying by procedure. Every place in America where that's done, every place, healthcare improves and the costs go down. Now, the other thing we got to do is make college accessible to everybody that wants it. There are two different positions here. Free tuition for everybody, and Hillary's position, which is debt-free graduation for everybody, and a manageable debt plan. Now, the problem with the free tuition plan is it requires the states to come up with a third of the match. What do you think the chances are that this governor and this legislature would pay for a third of the tuition? After they just got through cutting higher ed. So here's what Hillary wants to do. The states are, look, there are states governed by Democrats with Democratic legislatures that are in financial trouble today. So what she says is, look, let's make it debt-free, and that way we can cover more colleges. If you need free tuition, you get it. At any public college, and in small schools that cater to working class families, first and second generation immigrants, historically black colleges and universities, include them all. And give people free tuition if they need it. If they need more help, give them more help. If they need some more income, give everybody 10 hours a week who work study funds. That'll actually hold down the cost of college. And then, if people can afford to pay their tuition, they should do it. The most important thing may be the debt that's already been accumulated. Both President Obama and I signed the biggest college relief plans since World War II. And the cost of college has gone up so much, and state legislatures have cut funding so much, that the gains keep getting gobbled up. So what happens? More and more people are borrowing money outside the federal system from banks. So here's what she proposes to do about it. Number one, a college loan is the only loan in America you cannot refinance when interest rates go down. And that is wrong. If everybody refinanced their loans tomorrow, 25 million young people would save an average of $2,000. And if you owe more than the average debt, which is about $24,000, you'd save a lot more. Then number two, give everybody two options to pay the debt off. If you want to get rid of it in a hurry, if you do 2 years of community service in an AmeriCorps program and take any other public service related job for a year. You're a teacher, a social worker, you work in one of these drug rehab places, you're a police officer, a firefighter, anything related to community